everybody. Steve Politi from NJ Advanced Media here with the yet-to-be-named Rutgers podcast. 1-0, maybe that's the name of the podcast. The 1-0 This Week podcast, baby.
I love it.
Rutgers is 1-0 for the first time in a couple of years with a nice victory over Texas State, 35-7. I am joined, as always, by Keith Sargeant, the least favorite of the three of us by far right now. We'll discuss that later. And James Kratch, who, his popularity, he's got to do something soon because the fan base really seems to like him, and that's going to piss us off before the end of the season. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get right to it. You know, I think this is what you wanted to see from Rutgers. You wanted to see some offensive competence. You wanted to make sure that, you wanted to see defensive dominance. And most of all, of course, you wanted to see the freshman quarterback play. And Kratch, you've seen him throughout camp. You know Art Zakowski. You knew he was going to be the guy. You knew he had NFL tools. I mean, what impressed you the most from this performance overall?
I thought the fact that when he did make a mistake, and look, he made several of them, he bowed his neck. He just, Jonathan Hilliman told me when he threw the first interception, I believe, which was after the really nice throw in the back of the end zone to Jerome Washington that was negated by a penalty. I guess Hilliman said something to Art about the protection, and Art was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, he had, literally had forgotten the play. Right. And Hilliman's like, okay, this guy's really taking the short-term memory thing.
That's great.
To a new length here.
Yeah.
That's what I thought was the big key is, yes, he threw 3 picks. He should have probably had 5, I think, to be honest with you. Bo Melton made that nice play, breaking up the pass in the first quarter. I think in the second quarter, he tried to kind of teardrop the screen over to Blackshear and the guy from Texas State. I mean, look, Texas State had no interception since October of 2016 coming to today. They matched their total for the past 2 seasons today. So, I mean, there were some mistakes made, but I thought the way he kind of bounced back from those mistakes, moved on, and after every interception, he made a big play soon after. So I thought it was uneven. I would say that's the best way to characterize his performance.
Which is what you'd expect, right? I mean,
I would agree with that. And we kind of talked about post game. I think he just acted like mature beyond his. Rutgers fans are going to love this kid. I mean, he's really really sharp with the media, and he said all the right things. Talked about just forgetting the turnover. I think you asked him at one point about the getting hit when he slid, and he said he didn't even remember it. He just
he smiled and left. Yeah, he's an NFL. He might not be an NFL quarterback, but he's an NFL quarterback in far as dealing with the media. Yep. He looks like it. He speaks with confidence. He's polished. He's funny. He's when you see him, you're just like, there's your quarterback.
Well,
right?
That's what McNulty said. It's what McNulty said in training camp, and we kind of use the quote over and over again. Rutgers fans might be tired of it, but like he said, you can almost see a guy, he throws a rock across the pond, and that's your guy. Right. And it speaks to not only the way he throws mechanically and everything, but just the way he presents himself.
Yeah, and John McNulty, and that's he's a guy also who came out looking pretty good today. And they might get shut out against Ohio State next week. We'll preview that game in full in a minute, but at least you saw an offense that had it was a college offense. There was a plan. There was they were getting the ball to their playmakers in space. They were involving 6, 7, 8, 9 different guys, giving them a chance to get touches. It was really, unlike last year where the entire goal of the offense for 12 games was to keep the defense off the field and keep the score close. At least it looked like a college offense. They were trying to score.
It's amazing how far we've come because for the longest time and maybe late in the Kyle Flood era, people were like, "Oh my God, can you get an offense that looks like college football today with the spread and everything?" And then they tried that. The personnel didn't have the right quarterback.
No, they did not.
They didn't. They didn't really have the right personnel, so it failed miserably. And credit to Chris Ash because he talked a lot about being a spread guy, and then he adapted. Because one thing about John McNulty, he is not a spread guy. He's pro style. Yeah. Lots of players in motion. They're going, quarterback under center. Right. Play action really was effective. So you got to say that was what an NFL pro style offense looks like.
And what I thought was really striking to me was he had a beautiful game plan to get Art eased into the game. Yeah. Short throws. We talked about. I wrote a lot. Blackshear's going to be a 15 to 20 touch a game guy. I don't think some fans believed it. He had 22 today, counting special teams.
Right, 15 runs and 7 catches.
They're going to ride him. But I thought Art made mistakes, but it was short throws. There was a rhythm.
Right.
They were making plays. They run here, pass here. I thought he had a very well-designed game plan.
I thought about it afterward, too, because he had the pick six. And then what was the first play after that? A pass.
Yeah.
Give him some confidence. You didn't just say, you know what, I'm going to run the ball 3 times, and you didn't shy. You gave him the confidence and, 13-play drive, and he leads him down the field for a touchdown.
That's another thing, too. I mean, John McNulty has stressed big plays. Said, I hope we could have some long drives, but I don't know if it's going to happen every time. I think they had 2 drives over 5 minutes, 13, 11, and 8. I mean, they moved the ball consistently. I mean, granted, it's Texas State. But
as always, those are the 4 important words. Also, it's Texas State, but it was a shutout. I mean, it was a pick six. The offense or the defense did not allow a touchdown and scored a touchdown. So that was a really solid performance defensively. Even then, a lot of missed tackles, a couple of one key injury, one scary moment. When Bless Austin left the game, you're like, all right, well, that's their best player, and he was playing really well in this game. He had a sack. He had, he was tackle for loss. He looked like he did early last season, and it was scary to see him limp off. But then, to lose any depth on the defensive line is devastating.
No, I mean, T1 Mason, it looked ugly on the replay. Chris Ash said he believes it's a fracture. It's a long-term injury. I would assume his season is probably over.
Right.
That's a big blow for them because they don't have a lot of depth at jack defensive end to begin with. Because obviously Onyechi is one of the guys who's still in limbo with the credit card situation. We've talked about defensive line depth being concerned all year long. Now they lose him. Mason had a really strong training camp. Ellen Loomer had a tremendous game. I'm sure we'll get to him in a second. But now they're down another guy and that's a kind of a unique spot. They have defensive ends, but do they have guys who can play that jack that has to cover and rush?
I'll say one more thing, too. When Rutgers fans are going to say, well, it's Texas State, you kind of alluded to that, too. But it's kind of what Power 5 teams are supposed to do. I went back. 2016 was the last time Rutgers was over 500, and they were 2-1 that year because they beat an FCS team and then New Mexico. But the last couple of years they've been opening with Washington, and it's been brutal. This is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to fatten up a little bit, in week 1.
Right, absolutely. All right, so if you're looking also for defensive stars, I think there are a couple of guys who stood out. I mean, it looked like a young Komoko Ture out there, and Elorn Lumar. Is that pronounced?
Ellen Loomer, I believe it is.
Ellen Loomer. I like it. Lumar sounds fancier. Yeah. But he was active. I mean, they really had a couple of guys.
Tverdov had a sack.
Tverdov had a sack.
Every time.
From the past.
It just reminds me how old I am because it just looks like his brother. I mean, even the hair and everything, it looks like his brother.
You'll be here covering Tverdov's son someday. All right, let's go right into true or false. You guys ready? You know how this works, of course. I've got a lot of good ones for true or false this week. Number 1, true or false. Chris Ash can and will make changes on the offensive line. True or false?
False and false.
False? Can and he can't and he won't. True or false?
What's the timeline on it?
We got to talk about
true. I'll say true. Yeah, I'll say
we're going to talk about it. The offensive line was not good.
I'll say true.
Okay. True or false? Art Sikowski won't make it through the season if this team doesn't block better. True or false?
True.
Yeah. He got hit a bunch today.
True.
True or false? Blackshear's going to have a monster season in this offense. True or false?
True.
True.
I mean, it looked like it today, but we have to see better competition, obviously. True or false? The special team issues, and there are plenty of them, are a one-game aberration. True or false?
False.
Yeah.
False.
That's
a lot of young kids, a lot of youth.
Yep. True or false? The receivers are still a big concern.
True.
False.
You think false? All right, we'll get to that. I want to talk about that. True or false? Michigan State suddenly looks like a winnable game after narrowly beating Utah State. True or false?
False.
False. I'm not one, especially in week 1.
They don't play for 4 months.
I mean, Utah State is a bowl team.
And I got Northwestern that whole, they struggled against Purdue. Well, they played a Big Ten opponent in week 1.
And with Clayton Thorson was in the
on
game.
The road.
Northwestern looked pretty darn good.
True or false? Penn State suddenly looks like a winnable game. Tied at halftime with Appalachian State 10-10.
They must be so tight in Happy Valley right now.
It's got to be false.
Because they know Michigan. Right. It's the ghost is there.
I'm giving you both a false there. Okay, true or false? Ohio State just scored again.
True.
Yeah, true. It just happened.
True.
True or false? The crowd was actually better than you expected. True or false?
False.
The student section was very good.
Yes,
very, very good.
They were excellent. I was actually very surprised about how many students were here. Right. I looked over in the start of the second half. I was like, wow,
I will say this,
and they were into it too.
And I know we'll get to it later, but I was getting some tweets, and maybe we'll talk about it like during the week if people want to tweet me during the week. But it looked like it was tougher than normal to get into the stadium. I think a lot of fans had some security issues. So we'll do some digging on it and try to follow up on it.
Well, we're going to talk about it right now. As we do always, we have the Big Ten fan base we pissed off this week. It's a weekly feature for us. And this week, the song is going to sound familiar. Yes, that is the Rutgers song. And when I say the Big Ten fan base we pissed off this week, I'm using the royal we in that sense because Kratch and I, we're just doing our jobs here, guys. We're
talking about football.
We're talking about football. We're covering things we want.
Football guy.
And sometimes you have a guy on the team who's just a bad guy like Sarge. And on game day, he has to drop these two stories about how the crowd's going to suck and how it's getting worse and it's raining and it's cold and they're going to be this way the rest of your life. That's what you had to. You had to drop like a little negativity. Come down here, and I love you. This is not a tweet, but we don't have any mean tweets, but we have a mean email today. You showed me an email. Yeah. Your email said, and this is a quote from a reader, "Nice article, Dick." And I thought you should have responded, "Sir, I appreciate the kind words. My name is not Richard, though. It's actually Keith." That would have been funny. But all right, so let's go through what you wrote. I mean, and this is take us through the entire story because obviously there's a reason why this story appears on game day. It's not your doing.
It's not. I mean, we put in a request about two and a half weeks ago. I think it was August 15th, and I told everyone going into it I would love to do the story August 16th, August 20th, August 24th, whatever. I didn't want to do a game day.
Right.
I had one day off the entire month. It's not about me. I had one day off that I actually earmarked to have the Friday before game day take off. I got the numbers at 11 a.m. We all, we had to do the story beforehand. It made no sense to do the story after the game. It made no sense to do it.
Right.
The Wall Street Journal did the same type of story from a national perspective on Thursday. Same type of numbers, same type of story where Rutgers ranked in that. You look around the country, Orlando Sentinel, paper that covers Lexington, the Hartford Current. This isn't an NJ.com thing. No. This is something that a lot of people are talking. We get it all the time. Like, what's the crowd going to be like? What's the season tickets? The last thing I wanted to do was pee in the Cheerios of Rutgers fans on game day. It was just one of those things where we got the numbers on Friday at like 12 o'clock. I talked to Pat Hobbs. I wanted to dive into him a little bit. I was up at 5:30 in the morning, banging out that story. So it was the last thing I wanted to do was
it's intentional in a lot of ways too. When you release something on a Friday kind of news dump, so that's on Rutgers too. The request again. This is not a hard, complicated. This is a number they have, and and Pat Hobbs wasn't mad. I mean, it's the facts. It was 31,000 season tickets. In 2015, it's now 22 and change.
Yeah, 22 and change. And in fairness,
that's a big drop.
It is. And here's the thing, and we're going to do some follow-up reporting because it is a big deal. The money that they're losing, the deficit that they have, is attributable to season ticket sales, and that number, the bottom line is going down every year. So it is an important story. But I will keep in perspective is. It's tough. When you look at the secondary market, StubHub and all the different, I was looking at on game day at tickets for like $7. Of course, for a lower level, really good seats. Right. I mean, it's really tough when you have to make that commitment back in February. Shell out that type of money around the holidays or whatever, and have to tie a non-deductible now because of the new a seat gift to it. I'm not blaming Rutgers fans. It's It's one of those things, and it's not just Rutgers. It's a national trend that is tough. I mean, schools are and in a lot of ways, it's a lot easier and better to watch a game on TV sometimes.
I talked to a longtime fan outside the stadium, and he said he gave up his season tickets for that exact reason because you can get them for free, and that's a really interesting dilemma they have because they do not want the stadium to look empty on TV, but the more tickets you give away, the more fans expect free tickets.
And you can't do it because I'll give you a little inside. Like Graciano was doing that in like the mid 2000s, and he was doing it for a couple of reasons because he wanted to expand the stadium, so he wanted to get, and it was good for recruiting because the last thing that you want to do is have 18,000 fans, in a 40 at the time it was 42,000 seat stadium, so they were giving. It got to be like Thursday of a game week, and they were just giving away tickets, like in Piscataway, New Brunswick, anyone on the street, and then. In turn, like the season ticket holders knew it, and they were just irate about it because why are we spending these tickets when you're giving all so you can't really do that. Yep. The one thing that they are doing well from a marketing standpoint is they are trying to do a lot more incentives where if you're a season ticket holder, you're going to get discounts on this. You're going to you're getting more benefits with it. Yeah. So. I will say that.
All right, so this is the point. Now, this is when I'm going to finally make the fan base hate you. Because Kratch, you have an opinion on this about the crowd today. Just go ahead. Rant.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I don't understand why people get so upset about stories like this because this is not like, if you don't want media outlets to report that you're not going to games as fans, there's a really simple way to fix that. You show up at the game. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, some people get so upset and vitriolic, about this story. And they're like, but I'm not going to buy season tickets if I can get it for $7 on StubHub. Or I got my kid's soccer game. Or I got this. It's like, just come to the game. I mean, this is what I'll say. If you look at the history of college football, one of the teams is behind us playing on TV. It's Iowa. Every kind of cellar-dwelling program that ever kind of built itself up to national prominence started in the same place. They had 50,000-plus butts in the seats when they stunk. My alma mater, South Carolina, they were putting 80,000 people in the stadium when they were winless.
That's a great point.
Okay? It lays the foundation. So then when you kind of get the momentum going, then it's like, the people are here. More people want to come. And then it kind of carries over. The recruits come.
Right.
The last thing, Rutgers fans want to happen, and in the way it's trending, it could seem possible, is what happens if the stadium's 2/3 full when Penn State comes here and Rutgers upsets them?
Yeah.
Like, what is that going to look like? All of a sudden, that's the thing. Like, you got to buy in at some point. Especially, I know it's Labor Day weekend, but just come to the game.
Were you alarmed by the numbers when you saw like Ohio State? I mean, they're down in the low 20s, but then Ohio State was like 33,000. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was surprised by him.
It is absolutely. Those turnstile numbers were jarring to me. I was surprised it was low, as you said, 33,000.
And Rutgers, and I did get into it, and I couldn't get anyone on the record on it, but I heard from a couple of different people that they had an issue with their scanner. So one example that I had was, Seton Hall Rutgers a year ago basketball. The scan was 5,500, and anyone who was there knew it was like 8,500. So.
That's a weird excuse.
I would mention, apparently there were issues with the bag policy and getting in.
Yeah, it's hard to get here.
It's hard to get here
too, especially on the traffic.
The
traffic.
Yeah,
there's no train.
This is not a friendly place to go.
Yeah, there's definitely some issues. I would just say the one thing I would say about that is it's definitely on Rutgers, but at the same time, when you have all these people who are here who are waiting until 5 minutes before kickoff, you're going to have these jams. No, I just think at some point, I think fans have to realize, okay, if I want the program to grow, if I want it to get good, and this is very difficult, and it's not my money. At some point, do you need to invest, even if it's a partial season ticket package? Make sure you're giving them some money.
I agree.
Before you buy on StubHub.
I agree to an extent. I think part of the problem is the last 2 years have just been you're paying for 78-0. You're paying for some games that are just bad, and the other part of it is the current the students who are here now are not yet in that position. Like, I think this is going to be a better crowd in the future just because 12,000 students come.
Yeah,
so those kids leaving now, this is part of their lives going to these games. They're going to go out, they're going to have families, get kids, and buy tickets eventually. I think that's going to help.
So 20, 30 Steve Politi is going to be like, wow.
Exactly.
I think
this is a good
Rutgers
crowd.
has to stay on the students, though, too, because a lot of these kids were probably freshmen.
Right.
They just moved to campus. Oh, my God, I can speak seriously. College football, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
Well, then you got to make sure they show up when Buffalo comes.
And Chris Ash very carefully, when he talked, they don't bring statement, praise the students, not the crowd, the students, and I think that's pretty telling.
It was smart.
All right, let's move on to Ohio State preview, and
we got to talk about the offensive line.
Do we? Oh yeah, let's go back to that. Yeah, absolutely. It's it clearly was.
Yes,
I mean the right side of the line was a big problem.
Yes.
And Art was getting hit, and he was getting hit in his face. So that's what you see.
I think it's tough right now. I think Mike Lonsdorf his status going forward is going to be big. Obviously, he didn't play. He got banged up, some sort of leg injury. Mm-hmm. AJ Blazek said, he's getting there. I think they need him because he's the left guard, which obviously Nick Crimmin is listed on the depth chart as the backup right guard, but he played at left guard this week. He's obviously clearly their third best guard. You get Lonsdorf back in there, then I think if there's an issue, maybe they can bump Jonah Jackson to center if they think there's some heat coming up the middle. That makes the line stronger potentially. But the biggest thing is Lonsdorf is the backup left tackle. And we saw Tariq Cole limping around a little bit. It's clear that he's going to have to fight through something, and he might be able to do that. But if he can't go at some point, do you really want Raekwon O'Neal or Reggie Sutton, both true freshmen, playing against Ohio State?
Raekwon O'Neal is interesting because he had a really good spring, and it just seemed like he's been a guy who,
he was injured a little bit.
Yeah, but he played again today, and I could see him making a push in like maybe week 4, a type of guy where pushing Kamal Seymour.
I just you don't want him against Joey Bosa.
No,
or not. I of course did it for the first time. I'm sure I'll do it a lot this week. Nick Bosa. You don't want that matchup next week as much as you can avoid it.
Is this where it comes down to recruiting? And I know they had a 4 or 5 star guy, Micah Clark, who has not materialized yet. They still haven't had that really killer offensive line recruitment. Is this just depth? I mean, if Tariq Cole goes down, they're in big trouble.
There are only so many. I think you said this before. There are only so many 6'5", 300 athletic human beings that can play Big Ten football on the planet.
Right.
There are a lot of them, but it takes developing.
Yeah.
And we are only in year 3 of of AJ Blazek. By all accounts, he's done a really good job, but it does take some time to kind of develop those types of guys.
I think it's one of those things where it's great that AJ Blazek can develop 1 or 2 offensive linemen, but you don't want to be in a situation where you're saying, well, AJ basically had to develop 4 of these guys from 2-star status to now.
Yes, and this is a good segue. All the good 5-star offensive linemen in Columbus, Ohio, apparently. All right, so let's talk about reasonable expectations here. The games have been 50-something to 3-something, essentially, in the last couple of years. You head into Columbus, true freshman quarterback. Apparently, all of the off-season stuff has, not surprisingly, galvanized this team, which put up 77 on Oregon State.
Oregon State's very bad.
They're bad, but still.
Very
it's not.
bad.
It's not Morgan State. It's not Texas State.
Yeah.
It's a Pac-12 team. What are the reasonable expectations for this team going into Columbus?
I'll give reasonable expectation. I think if they're within 30, 20, 4 touchdowns maybe.
Yeah.
And it depends on how you get to that point. Is midway through the third quarter, is it still like 14 points or whatever? Is it do they just wear down late? I think that would be satisfying. I'm really fascinated by, and we'll probably write about it a couple of times, but McNulty versus Schiano. I mean, think about like Greg. And people say it all the time. Anyone close to Greg talks about it all the time. If Greg could have gotten McNulty as his offensive coordinator instead of Mike Sullivan in his year 1 in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Because it was blocked. It was he was under contract in Arizona. It would have been a totally different situation. I mean, they really do respect each other, and I think Greg knows McNulty really, really well, and McNulty knows Greg. That to me, more so. I know this is year 3 of Greg playing against coaching against Rutgers, but this is far and away the most interesting matchup in my opinion.
Well, they scored 77 points. They gave up, I think, 31 Ohio State's defense against Oregon State, and they gave up several big plays.
Yeah.
My gut feeling is that, and I have John McNulty's fired up for this matchup, and I think that he's going to have some tricks, and you're going to see some creative things. I think as long as they can execute and protect a little bit, they're going to get it 1 or 2 over on Ohio State offensively. I think they're going to score points this year.
Yeah.
But my big concern is I thought that Texas State offense was pretty sloppy. And I know they didn't give up any points as a defense, but there was a lot of poor tackling. There was some big runs that shouldn't have happened. I just some bad penalties. I just wonder. I think Ohio State, they turned that into 21-0 8 minutes in the game.
Yep. Well, give me this. If this would be a rousing success, if Rutgers scores 2 touchdowns and doesn't give them 50 points. If they could do those two things.
It was 49-14, I think.
49-14.
And you're healthy,
Can you
getting
you're
out.
Healthy, getting out. It's crazy, but that's where they are. That's where the two programs are. All right, so we've been doing this each week. The Name the Podcast segment. For some reason, I don't know why, I've been starting with a game show theme song and trying to get Sarge to guess what it is. He missed his own one. He missed terribly last week. Because of that, and because it's Texas State, I have selected a game show theme song that's a little easier. I think Sarge is going to get it. We'll find out. It starts up a little slow.
Family Feud?
Yes! He did it! I knew you would. Family Feud. You're 1-1.
That was a layup right
That was
there.
a layup. Come on. All right. So we had 3. What did we do last week? We had 3 of them?
Yes.
So,
Can I keep playing this or should I stop?
first off,
I'll
we
fade
did have
out.
3, and I might get sued. I'm a little worried about the lawsuit.
Well, how about that, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
If there was ever a nugget that proved there's too many Rutgers podcasts
Well,
in the
yes,
world,
there's already
it's one Rutgers podcast coming up with a hypothetical new name that is another podcast that already
already
exists.
had the name. Yes, so this is the story. Last week, Sarge suggests quite instantly, why don't we call it the Are You Screw
we were talking about
podcast? We were talking about the Rutgers Screw. Are You Screw podcast, kind of funny. Turns out, not only is there already our friends Adam Helfgott and Mike Vorkunov have a podcast named the Are You Screw, but I was the first guest on this season on that Are You Screw podcast. Who knew?
By the way, that was a great tweet. The name escapes me, but it was like Radio Row. It's like Rutgers podcasters interviewing other Rutgers podcasters.
It's gone. Eventually, it's like in Seattle, you have a Starbucks inside the Starbucks. Eventually, we're going to have a podcast recording inside our podcast. There'll be a second podcast inside the podcast. That's how many podcasts there are.
So last
apparently.
week, 170 votes. Moving on up in the
It
world.
was 150 last week.
Steve's suggestion of Podscataway, which I kind of like, won with 37% of the vote.
Mm-hmm.
Night Court, which I had suggested, 34% of the vote. Are You Screwed did better, 29%, but obviously we had
close.
to throw those ballots out.
That's good.
I'm running out of ideas here.
You can't. It's week 1. We've got 10 more weeks. You can't run out of ideas. All right, come on.
I'll get back to me.
I'll go birthplace banter.
No, wait a minute. I have
Birthplace banter. A little alliteration?
All right, I had a birthplace theme one too, so I got to come up with something else now. I had the birthplace pod. I was going to say.
Well, mine's better. Banter.
Birthplace banter. All right, that's
Birthplace
not
banter?
bad.
Alliteration? No?
It's kind of cheesy, but all right. Birthplace banter.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to kill your name because you haven't won. I've gotten 2-0 here in the. All right, birthplace banter. That's one. Kratch. Kratch.
I mean,
What the hell?
What the hell?
Hell Center.
I don't get it. Hail Center?
Yeah. What the hell?
So people know what the Hail Center is?
I don't know,
Name
but
your
that's my idea. All right, we're just getting one on the fairway.
yeah, I mean, they're not all going to be winners, so.
Okay. All right. So apparently not. All right. I'm going to go with Bill Leggett's boys. William Leggett's boys. Is that good?
Pretty good.
Willie Leggett's.
That'd be a great bar name in New Brunswick.
Willie Leggett.
Willie or Billy Leggett's.
Billy Leggett's. Well, come. All right. Fine tune that before you put it in the thing. Something Willie Leggett. Bill Leggett. Will Leggett. William Leggett. Yeah. I don't know. It's not really thought it through because you took my birthplace idea. All right. So there you go. Those are the 3 names. Anything else before we go? Any final thoughts?
No, you're not going to Columbus, though.
I'm not going to Columbus. No. The Giants season opener is 1 o'clock on Sunday. I'm going to miss this one. I'll be watching on TV, though. You guys got big plans? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to hang out?
It's good. I might be kind of like, I got to keep a little profile in Columbus. I've tweeted some things that might get me in trouble.
I remember last time, Politi, if anyone listened to this, I think by now, 3 years, I think we all get that Politi likes to, eat well the night before a game and go to a nice restaurant. We're not talking about Friendlies like our former colleague used to like to go to. Likes to get a nice, steak and a, glass of wine. And so I remember, and I'm not trying to, say that we spend a lot of money because it's the one night that we go and then Saturday we eat cheap and everything. But, we eat pretty well that Friday, but it was a little bit more expensive than I was used to paying. And then afterward, we decided to go out to like a local bar. I just remember going in, and we all kind of felt guilty about, so we were, spending our own money on the beer. And the bartender, we said, "What do you have on special?" Pabst Blue Ribbon.
That's right.
And it was the first one I've had since college.
It was like $1.75 for a can of Pabst Blue Ribbon.
And I remember why I haven't had it since college. But while we're in Columbus, I might make it like a tradition.
You should. That's a great stuff. All right.
I've never had a Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Well, here we go, Sarge. Yeah. Well, time to take Kratch out
I will
on the
tweet a photo
report.
for our loyal listener, or not plural.
There you go. All right. Well, you guys have a great time. We'll be back here next week to recap that game, to preview the season, and to come up with, finally, a better podcast name. Steve Politi, Keith Sargeant, James Kratch signing off. Thank you for listening.